see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blur Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that recently happened in the Captain Marvel comics, because those are about to come to an end with issue number 50 that should be out in or roughly around the time this video comes out. And they'll be doing not a relaunch, but there will be like a 5-issue mini that's coming out after that, and then who knows, whatever after. But the status quo for Captain Marvel has changed, and while we haven't seen a lot of these changes so far take place in Jed MacKay's Avengers, because as I talked about in a previous video, Captain Marvel is now the leader of the Avengers in Jed MacKay's run. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what may or may not be up with Captain Marvel's new powers. At the end of Captain Marvel number 48, we saw that a character who Captain Marvel kind of revered as a sort of sister had died. Now, this wasn't actually her sister. She does have an actual sister by the name of L'Oreal, who is technically a half sister of Carol. They do not share the same father, but they do share the same mother. For those unfamiliar, L'Oreal was introduced in Captain Marvel number 18 during the Al Ewing Empire story arc, and that character is still very much around, but the new character, who has gone by the name of Binary, which was a former moniker of Captain Marvel ever since Uncanny X-Men number 164 back in 1982. This new version of Binary is how Captain Marvel just recently got her new power upgrade. This new version of Binary, who made their debut in Captain Marvel number 34 just this past year, 2021, this version is an energy duplicate. This was something that Carol did during that issue of Captain Marvel number 34, where she was trapped by Vox Supreme in the deepest, darkest recesses of space inside of what is, for all intents and purposes, a Faraday cage. For those that don't know what a Faraday cage is, it's essentially a type of shielding that is used to either block out electromagnetic energy or keep it contained. And because of the nature of what a Faraday cage is, it would be something that Captain Marvel would have a very difficult time escaping from. But what Captain Marvel was able to do is that she took a page out of the second ever Captain Marvel's, Monica Rambeau. She took a page out of her playbook, knowing that she can't replicate Monica's power set, because Monica's power set is very different from what Carol can do. Monica Rambeau, for those unfamiliar, can manipulate and control various aspects of the electromagnetic spectrum, but she can also become those very same things. Carol does not have that same ability. However, she has, as of late, shown an ability to create sort of photon energy constructs. We've seen her very recently, especially during her bout with characters like the Scarlet Witch, Agatha Harkness, Dr. Voodoo, and Amora the Enchantress, where she created a giant photon energy claymore, something that actually had weight and heft, and when she threw it, it actually collided with weight against a giant dragon that she was fighting. In this, she tries to do the exact same thing, but this time trying to create a copy of herself, a sort of astral projection, only in this case it's an energy projection. And what she winds up doing is she creates an exact duplicate of herself, one who looks eerily like how she did when she was Binary. But due to events during the last of the Marvel story arc, a story arc that saw the return of Vox Supreme, who was trying to reinvent the wheel on his previous plan to turn Captain Marvel into a villain, he extended this to all of the other different versions of Captain Marvel, or anyone derivative of Captain Marvel. This is how Monica Rambeau, Phyla Vell, and Kamala Khan had gotten roped into potentially becoming a part of Vox Supreme's Dark Captain Marvel army. And because of the fact that a chunk of this took place on a planet that had somehow been revitalized by the Phoenix Force, and of course is also where the original Captain Marvel, Mar-Vell, this was the planet where he was buried after his death in the Death of Captain Marvel number 1 in 1982. This created a perfect environment for an energy duplicate like this new version of Binary to exist and evolve into sentience. Despite looking exactly like Carol Danvers as a full-grown adult, this version also had the mentality of a child at first. And then over issues, we saw her grow her intelligence and personality to the point where she became almost an entirely different character in and of herself from Carol Danvers. To the point that, as I said earlier, she saw Binary as yet another sister, treating her as if she were family. Well, Binary, thanks to the manipulations of the Brood during the Revenge of the Brood story arc, which is the last major story arc of Kelly Thompson's run on Captain Marvel, the Brood had killed Binary, and when Carol discovered Binary's death, this led to Binary being reabsorbed into Captain Marvel's body, reimplanting that same energy that Captain Marvel had given away and put it back where it originally was. A combination of this, as well as the anger, grief, and sorrow that she's feeling over the loss of Binary, this led to her evolving her superpowers to a point that we are not supposed to see until the very far-flung future. Some of you may or may not remember when Marvel was doing all these different one-shot issues like Captain Marvel The End or Captain America or Venom The End. It was supposed to be story arcs that took place at the end of that hero's life cycle or timeline, not necessarily saying it was going to be when the character died, but in some cases that was exactly that, and that's what it was for Captain Marvel. But by that point in time, she had the exact same power. The power she had was on the Emperor Palpatine level. She had unlimited power. It was insane. It made her an even more busted and broken character than she already was. Captain Marvel is already one of the most powerful beings in terms of raw power and energy absorption and energy projection in the Marvel Comics universe. The only characters who can even hang with Captain Marvel in terms of energy absorption and projection are characters like Monica Rambeau. There are some others out there too who can likely hold up with her, but maybe characters like Blue Marvel and probably the Sentry and Hyperion are right up there as well. But at the end of the day, this has put Captain Marvel in a very unique position. She is now boasting what is effectively unlimited power, and while her power always seemed kind of crazy to begin with, her power used to come from what was at the time an unlimited source. When she was originally Binary, she had the power of a white hole. For those who are unfamiliar with what a white hole is, it's essentially like a black hole, but their polarities are reversed. Whereas with a black hole, nothing can escape the gravitational pull of one. A white hole is the polar opposite of that. It has a reverse polarity, meaning that nothing can get inside of it. So whereas a black hole will try to suck you in, a white hole will try and keep you out. Captain Marvel, back during her Binary days, she was cut off from that power source, but she has over the years been able to tap into it to a limited degree here and there. It's hence why we always hear her talking about going binary. That's when she powers up and goes Super Saiyan and is in tournament band busted mode. Now she can be in that power set all the time if she chooses to. At first it seemed like it was some kind of power instability thing, that she was going through so much grief that she was gonna let off this massive amount of power. But in the Jed MacKay run, Captain Marvel looks relatively like her normal usual self. When Captain Marvel gained these abilities in Captain Marvel The End, as well as in Captain Marvel number 48 and 49, this was a new look that she couldn't really seem to turn off. It was how she just always walked around. It was that she had transcended being a half human, half Kree hybrid to becoming strictly a pure energy form. As we go to the Captain Marvel The End one-shot, there's a point where she's speaking with the mutant Fuse, and she literally refers to herself and her skin as pure energy. And it's not one of those situations where, oh, well, you know, she only uses it for combat. This is just her when she goes into battle mode type of looks. This was how she walked around the entire issue. We didn't see her as her normal regular self unless it was in a flashback. Now, before people start freaking out going, oh no, Marvel's trying to make Carol Danvers just like Monica Rambeau. They're trying to, you know, edge Monica Rambeau off to the side and make Captain Marvel just like her. I want to go ahead and say right now, I don't think that's exactly the case, because if we're being brutally honest here, being able to turn into a pure energy form is not the same thing as being able to turn into a bunch of different energy types from across the Electro magnetic spectrum. It's not the same thing. Despite the fact that Carol Danvers now has a pure energy form, that's honestly not that different from what she was doing back when she was binary. Really just kind of putting her back to where she was early on. At a time where Monica Rambeau had only just entered into the Marvel Comics universe and her powers were wholly undefined. The two characters have always kind of been in this photo finish in the eyes of fans, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that one of Carol Danvers' most major evolutions as a character when she became binary happened about at exactly the same month, publication-wise, that Monica Rambeau debuted in Amazing Spider-Man annual number 16 in the same year. This one character got a major power buff while another major character was introduced in the same month, and I feel like that's kind of made them enemies in the eyes of the fans, when in fact they're quite friendly to one another. This is why I always hate the superhero debate, who would beat who in a fight, because a lot of times they wouldn't fight, they would just have a conversation. The most aggro I think Monica and Carol have ever been with one another is when Carol first took up the name Captain Marvel. Monica took a little bit of beef with it, but ultimately got over it and has jumped back and forth between 3 different names since then. I think they're fine. They go out dancing and drinking together pretty regularly. I don't think there's any beef there. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that maybe she's not quite to that unlimited power level quite yet. It seems like maybe this is something she can turn off if she chooses to. We still have one more issue to figure out what's going on with those powers, why we haven't seen them in the Avengers #1 issue by Jed MacKay. Maybe there's some kind of weird like timeline on this where maybe some things are not overlapping quite the way that they should. All of that is up for debate at this point. But anyways, that's everything I want to talk about with Captain Marvel and her new seemingly unlimited power. If you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure you tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that I put out. I put out new videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you tune in for that. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you think about Captain Marvel's unlimited power. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.